Hello, and thank you for joining us. We're with CGTN's China Up Close tour, and we are in Fujian province, which is on China's southeast coast. Now, we are joined by a group of foreign media professionals hailing from 18 countries across the Asia Pacific, and together we've been touring the province and finding out about the stories of Fujian's development. And I'm Jiao Yang with CGTN, and I'm pleased to be joined by some of our media professionals today for a little roundtable discussion. So I'll let you guys do the self-introductions.
I'm Ibrahim Hulail from Maldives. In English we can call Maldives.
Hello, I'm Modna Dhakal from Nepal. I work for a newspaper called The Rising Nepal, and I also lead a group of journalists. It's Nepal Association of Financial Journalists.
Hello, I'm Jun Avinis from the Philippines. I work in a newspaper, and I also write on social media.
Kia ora koto katoa. My name is Mariva Cameron, and I come from the Cook Islands, located in Polynesia within the Pacific.
My name is Guan Rui from Fujian International Communication Center.
And we've been seeing a lot of very interesting places, I think, and also I've been very impressed by a lot of these sites that we've been visiting, a lot of the industries in Fujian. And I think we all really enjoyed the Ningde fishing village, right? Yeah. So it's fascinating. It's completely out at sea. I hadn't expected anything like this. Had to take a boat to get there. And now, I mean, fisheries, marine economy accounts for something like over 270 million US dollars of global GDP. So this is huge, and apart from Nepal, I think it's a huge industry in your countries, right? So what impressed you about this place? Like, what was noteworthy?
For the first expression for me is the place is just like 714 square kilometers. It's bigger than Maldives, I can say. We have 289 square kilometers, so the place only itself is 714 square kilometer, so big, and they maintain the place very well. So I'm very impressed with the yellow crocker, we say.
Seeing the magnitude of the project, and it's large, it's huge, and the modern technology and the materials. I've been into aquaculture myself, and it's not easy. So when I saw the place, wow, this is perfect. I could say that there's a deep planning on it, because it was surrounded by big mountains, so protected from winds, and then the materials used, and it was clean, and the fish species that is being cultured was perfect for me. So it's like, wow, this is something that we need to learn, because I come from a place where we are basically a fishing country, but we're not able to make use of the technology, where 40% of our catch came from illegal fishing. So I thought, oh, this kind of practice must be adopted in a place like mine, because we need to conserve our waters for future generations. Yeah. So we could adopt this technology, this kind of project so massive that it feeds millions of people, and then without harming the sea surroundings. So I said, oh, this should be shared to the world, and I'm impressed with that.
And Mariva, when we were there, you made an observation about what's powering this whole fishing village.
Yes, so my first impression of the place was, for me, the size, obviously, like we've commented on, but also because I come from the Pacific, where we have large tidal waves, rough currents. In my head, I was like, how is this possible? How is there a floating village, fishing village, just calm, you know, the whole time? And mind you, we were in the middle of rough weather. It was pouring down. All of us got drenched. And when I was there, I realized that it wasn't necessarily within the ocean, but a bay area. So they had calmer waters. And then it was so awesome to see. We went up to the highest point to give a bird's eye view. And then I noticed all the offices that are floating on the water have solar panels, have smaller wind turbines. And then so I was like, oh, so is this place completely renewable energy? Because how would this be on the grid, being a floating fishing village? And then I was told, yeah, it is. And I was thinking, wow, what a way to make use of nature and to power this whole thing. Because you have to remember, for the Pacific, we really just have wet and dry seasons, and I have to say, it can get really humid and it can get hot. And I know Fujian experiences the same thing during summer. The humidity, the heat. I mean, back home, all everyone wants to do after work is just go to the beach and swim. So I can see the necessity to have aircon within the offices because your temperatures reach so high, but also maintaining the quality of fish that are caught. So that was a big impression.
And one thing we were talking about there is 5G. The wind turbines and the solar panels is powering 5G networks right out there at sea, right?
Yeah.
And that's making the whole fish farming process so much easier for the people out there because it means that they can do things from a tap of their phone instead of having to be out there in the elements. That they cleaned up 100,000 tons of plastics. Floating rubbish, just out there in the ocean when they were transforming these fish farms.
What I realized while watching this that it's not only about the thing that clean energy and fishing industry. It's also contributing to the preservation of marine life elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because you are doing it there commercially, right?
Right.
So I think the Fujian province would be looking into the opportunity of expanding it, developing it into a new tourism destination.
Right.
And also I think I would like to suggest, if you haven't, I don't know you have it or not, if you haven't, I think create a delicacies of the yellow croaker that suits the taste of other the cultures as well. Like we have continental food, we have Indian foods, we have so these types of things will contribute to grow the tourism in that area.
Actually, now that you mention that, Maud, the yellow croaker industry there has actually been, not just for tourism, crucial for that, but it was actually really instrumental in the poverty alleviation campaign in the city.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's very important that, aside from using renewable or cleaner plastics, which is what they're using at this fishing village, we're talking about those energy sources that is completely just the environment, what the environment is providing. So, I think being able to capitalize on something like solar and wind is so important. And speaking of wind, there's also the Fujian wind turbine place that we visited, right? The wind farm, and that was interesting.
When we're talking about this Fujian project, maybe some of our audience are not very familiar with this wind energy project. I would like to talk a little about it because it's really a superstar of the offshore wind energy industry. It is generating about 1.4 billion kilowatt hours electricity annually. That is equivalent to 3 years electricity consumption of Maldives. So it's a very huge amount of electricity that is very meaningful to the global carbon reduction. And also those wind turbines produced by Fujian are exported to other countries. That is a Fujian contribution to the global carbon reduction. So that is a superstar project.
I think we were told there was 400 to 500 wind turbines out at sea around Fujian. And
maybe you can put a cable to Maldives. This way, actually, it's with one frame we can have 3,500 household. So it means we can have one in each island because we have 1,172 islands. People inhabited will be 184 islands. So if we get 184 fans, it's enough for us for now.
Also,
so we can save from the oil and everything. We can use just from the nature. We can use all those things.
Yes, you also have a very rich wind energy in your country.
We do have.
I noticed you were really interested in this.
But for Nepal, we want to have wind energy as an strategy to energy mix because we are predominantly hydropower producing country, right? So hydropower is vulnerable because we are at the epicenter of the earthquake, right? And we have the problem like glacier melting and avalanches, so that also may cause damages in the hydro projects. So we are trying to create a sort of solar and wind energy, but due to the topography, so 83% of the land is mountains and hills. So you cannot carry the large blades and turbines up to the hills. So our road infrastructure is moderate. So that's why we are just having a couple of wind turbines as a pilot project so far. and we aspire to do it, but I think we need to find a way and technology as well as resources.
Right.
Since still we are a LDC, least developed country, and graduating as a developing in 2026. So we need to find technology, strategy and resources to have this. But we are trying to develop a couple of wind projects. So we are collaborating with the ADB, World Bank, and maybe we collaborate with China as well.
For the wind turbines, it was so impressive when I was told they can withstand 10 typhoons out on the water, and I was like, wow, that's perfect for the Pacific, because with climate change rising, now we are a lot more prone to natural disasters than we were in the past, hurricanes, cyclones, and so knowing that can withstand that kind of natural disaster is something big. The only issue is that, it's so great to be able to get these kind of resources, but it's the upkeep. It's the maintenance.
Yeah.
It's one thing to donate or, fund these kind of projects, but for the Pacific, we are very far from the rest of the world. So if one thing were to happen, for it to be picked back up and maintained would take a lot of work. So it's not just, enough to just donate, but also checking up with the upkeep, being able to have those and keep those connections, to have someone who's well educated in the wind turbine industry to be able to come in and fix it. And it's not cheap. It's not a cheap path for the Pacific.
I think
Transfer technology as well as skills, isn't it?
Yes.
it's exciting for me to look at China taking lead in production of this technology, because for the last several years, this kind of technology is very expensive and affordable. And if China can keep on producing it, and maybe one day those Southeast Asian can afford it one day, and for poor countries like mine, we can have this if China keeps on producing quality and affordable goods and sharing it to their neighbors. Because for the longest time we only see this as a feature for selfies and tourism. But if the production of this will gets momentum, and then it becomes affordable for poorer countries, I think many of the island countries like mine can benefit it, especially on those areas with the tourism. And then the visitors keep complaining, there's a brownout or there's blackout. So I'm excited for it, for the future, because as of the time we understand it's still on the beginning stage, but hoping that this kind of green energy will become a mainstream in the future.
Like June said, we are trying to reach out to China as well. So a memorandum has already been signed between the two countries for the energy cooperation. So that is not far. The future is not far that we could see transmission lines crossing the Himalayas from Nepal to China, and we are having actual energy cooperation in the days to come.
And I have to say, just being someone who's come to China for the first time, my outside perspective on China is still 1,000%, big manufacturing company, all this carbon dioxide emissions. But then I come here and then I realize majority of the vehicles on the street are electric vehicles. It's not, I can turn left and right and I see charging stations. I see renewable energy sources almost everywhere. Like I would not have expected to be at Ningde, the fishing village, but there it was. And so I do see commitments being made by China to, help with global commitment to reduce carbon dioxide emissions and to help towards, prolonging our life on Earth. But it's just a matter of, is it enough?
Right.
Are we all working together? Because China can't be the only one putting their foot forward. But is it a big enough step? So those are the questions that are still being questioned, especially from the Pacific.
When we were touring that CATL battery park, right, we were discussing about the use of the prevalence of EVs in the Philippines, and you were saying it's a very small percent. And so, what are some of the obstacles there to more wide use of EVs?
Yes, as you know, my country is fragmented islands, so there's big, small islands and not interconnected. And then when I left, I could say that every 20 vehicles you'll be lucky to find one EV. And then for the last 5 years, there have been news about EVs, but there is no technology, there is no infrastructure, and even there is no education that's being put into the public to have a positive view about EV. There's more apprehensions and doubts about EV, how it works. And when I come here, I was shocked about half of the. And when I called my wife,
Maybe
I said,
more than half. Maybe more than half.
maybe more than half.
Very popular here in Fujian.
Scooters as well. I see a lot of electric scooters.
Yes, I made a call on the street and said, "Why is it so quiet? You're on the highway. I could see the vehicles running, big hundreds of vehicles all at the same time." But he said, "I couldn't hear any exhaust sound." I said, "Yeah, because most of these cars are EVs." Really? So it's like we're in the future. So it's me thinking about it. It's like, am I from 20 years ago when I left? I just jumped from the future. But it was real. Weeks after I got used to it, and I said, okay, I think we're really backwards, and there has to be some education. There has to be some move that we should move forward to green technology, and then there must be a national way of, let's move forward to going green and adopt this kind of technology, because seeing China producing lots of products that we can benefit, I said, oh, I think being neighbor, being friends, and being trade partner with China is the best thing that happened in Southeast Asia. So that's why I said, oh, I have lots of things to say, and I don't know how to, start. I don't know where to start, because they might say, oh, are you crazy? Because the future. But that's it. We are behind.
To add some points to your point is that I think government decision, government policy plays crucial part in terms of promoting EVs. For example, I would like to give one example from my country, because I don't know anything about others. So, government might be frowned at losing revenues. For example, in Nepal, diesel and petrol passenger vehicles have to pay up to 240% customs duty.
240%.
Yes, and electric cars, customs duty ranges only 15% to 40%. Wow. See the gap, 40% and 240%.
Yeah, that's.
So we can see a lot of thousands of EVs, and our finance minister was telling that we need to raise some customs duty from the next budget, because the government is losing billions of rupees in revenue. So but it has come up with the strategy to build new charging stations and promoting EVs, even in the government offices, with the ministers, with the provincial governments. I think this is a good thing to do.
Just jumping in with what June had mentioned with CATL, I was quite interested in that too, because the Cook's very minimal electric vehicles, but my sister actually has an electric vehicle at home, who's probably tuned in with my parents, so hello. Hello, my sister. But what was so interesting to me is now we're seeing issues. I have to say that Leaf has really held it together with our family and with the heat for a long time, but now we're starting to see issues. She's trying to get batteries replaced, and so things that stood out to me, and we were talking to the tour guide, and I was like, oh, okay, so what's the number of batteries in an average passenger electric vehicle nowadays here in China? Because now they have battery swaps, and so in my country we just have the chargers. I know you can battery swap for things like electric scooters, that was known to me, but that's a big jump from electric scooters to a passenger vehicle, being able to just swap out the battery and be on the go. And so the tour guide said, oh, the average number of batteries in a vehicle now is maybe 3. And I was like, I was mind blown, because my sister, I'm pretty sure her electric vehicle is 6 or 8, needs 8 batteries to run. Yeah, so that was one thing that was interesting to me. Another thing was we saw on screen the promotions of the vehicles that they sold and what the charge looks like in kilometers, and one of them was like 1,000 kilometers. And I was like, oh my goodness, with this one charge, you can go around our main island, Rarotonga, more than 30 times. Like, I was like, that's crazy. And just seeing that and seeing the development that China has put in and their investment to green technology was very eye-opening.
We have to maintain, we have to sustain, and we have to do some rules and regulations about battery cars and everything. In Maldives also, it's very cheap, like Nepal, the duty cost is very low, but for the engine vehicles, it will be something like 200% we have. But for the normal one, we have, just like Nepal, we have also 10%. So, but I think we have to do a good plan first and follow it. I think we are having a bridge to the Viligili also, but maybe it will be sustained or not, we also don't know, because, but we have to do a strict rule on those things actually.
I think it's absolutely what June was saying, you know, it has to be a government push, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Government-led initiative.
And for me, when I come here, for me, my mind was, the question was, is it sustainable? Because we still have doubts. But when I get to the CATL factory, I said, oh, it's more than just sustainable. They're way ahead. The question is not, is it sustainable? Is it how convenient? And when you charge it for 1 second kilometer, I said, oh my God. So we are on the first question and they are already answering the 100th question. So we are way behind and say, okay, I no longer doubt that the EV is the future and there's been an investment and there is already technology and in fact there is already production for the future. And maybe I was just dreaming, hoping we can catch up because it will be nice for people to experience driving on a vehicle that just
The life expectancy was 16 years.
Yeah, 16 years. I'm also just want to add that one. It was 16 years. It's so good.
But then you need to ask the question, once that life expectancy is out, what happens to the batteries? Where do those batteries go? Where do they end up? Are they recycled? Can they be recycled because of the lithium? So it's definitely a step forward, though.
Yeah, we always need to be responsible for our next generations, right? We've talked about international cooperation before, and in terms of international cooperation, I would like to talk a little about this museum. It's Quanzhou Maritime Museum, featuring the exhibition of culture and economic exchanges and mutual learning along the maritime Silk Road. You know, Fujian was the starting point of ancient maritime Silk Road, also at the core of the 21st century maritime Silk Road. And Belt and Road Initiative paving the way for a shared future. You're all from Belt and Road partnership countries, so would you like share some your thoughts of its importance and mutual gains of the Belt Road Initiative?
From my perspective, it seems to be working out for a lot of countries, and we've had lectures on it. I do know that there were questions raised by other nations regarding risk of debt, etc. But listening to basically giving the proper structure and the outline of it, it does look beneficial for a lot of countries.
And I think for Pacific Island countries, I mean, the economy is largely held back by the fact that it's so geographically isolated. So I mean, having connectivity, which is what all the Belt and Road is about. I mean,
for Nepal, I think we want to be a land bridge between India and China. And also we want to explore the Eastern European countries and the Central Asian countries through China. So there have been, in 2018, during the visit of presidency, Nepal and China signed a memorandum for trans-Himalayan cross-border connectivity. So I think both the countries are working on it. And a couple of months ago, I think 6 months ago, there was a team from China to study the pre-feasibility of the construction of the trans-Himalayan railway. So if that happens, I think that would be the largest project under the BRI. And also it will be beneficial for China as well, since Nepal borders with Bihar and Uttar Pradesh of India, which combined have 350 million population. So it's growing at the fastest rate, about 10%. So it's the income of people is increasing. So that could be a good market opportunity for both Nepal and China. And Nepal can work as a buffer zone in terms of investment, in terms of culture, in terms of so many things. So we want to get connected
Right, right.
to the northern part of the Asia and Europe via China. So that is our aspirations. I think both the governments are working on that.
You're talking about Nepal needing this network, national rail and road network. Why is it so important for national development?
The poverty alleviation in China, I think it's at the root of it is international trade. So with the growth in the trade, employment grew, people got job, their income increased, and they could manage their expenditures and the lifestyles in a better way. So we don't have a large scale industry, right? We are a moderately developing country. So we are in the stage of industrial development, and we are tourism oriented. Tourism is a big business there. So even for the tourism, we need good connectivity. Without connectivity, you can't have a good trade and good tourism, and you cannot attract investors from other countries. So we need to have those things.
I agree. As if we look at our modern history, Southeast Asia or Asia in particular was most of it are disconnected, or there's great barrier with big mountains. And for Philippines, like my country, it's like we're disconnected. So most of the countries in the Asia Pacific are left behind of the technology and the trade because we don't have the link. It's good to see China leading the way of connecting these neighboring countries because we have so much to share. So for a country that is isolated, your chances of learning and catching up, just like what I said before, it's like you're left behind. So if Southeast Asia can have this link coordination through the seas and the land, roads and trains, it will give Asian nations a chance to catch up, develop, and share technologies, because there are countries like we have so much raw materials, but we're not able to use of it because we don't know how to use it. But if you can give us new technology and we give you raw materials, the whole of our particular area will develop and catch up. Unlike Europe, they are connected, and once technology is here, you just ride a horse and then, hey, we have this new technology. So I think that's where the Southeast Asia was left behind, and now China is doing a great favor for its neighbors, because maybe China understands that, okay, I can be great, but I can be greater if I can make use of the friendship, the sharing of resources, technology, and it's good news for us.
Yeah, absolutely. The infrastructure is transformative for the economy, and bringing in tourism and all of that. Well, thank you guys so much. It's been such a pleasure sitting here and speaking with you all, learning a lot as well.
Welcome to Fujian. Bye.
Bye-bye.